This is as good as it's gonna get. Welcome back to bad lighting and a bad setup with me, where everything is bad all the time. So with that being said, welcome, friends and enemies. We're gonna be looking at a book I wrote when I was 12. Before we start, I do want to say I don't think it's like bad that I wrote this. Like, I was 12. I obviously didn't know what I was doing, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't write stuff when you're 12. We all have to start somewhere, and it's because I wrote a bunch of dumb stuff when I was in elementary school that I was able to get better and now write good stuff. So me roasting 12-year-old me's writing doesn't mean don't write if you're young. It means just practice makes perfect, and I like to make fun of myself. So what's she gonna do? Time travel to the present and fight me? I could fight a 12-year-old. I could definitely fight 12-year-old me. She was weak and small. Okay, enough talking about fighting a hypothetical past version of myself. Let's get into the writing. Actually, before we get into the writing, for some reason there are not one but two book covers for this. Like, I made a book cover and then I made a different one that I actually have in the document. Graphic design may have been my passion, but it definitely wasn't my strength. But then again, neither was writing. So, this first one, I don't remember my process. The tree kind of looks traced, and so does the horse. Not because it's good, but because the shape is very specific. Like, I didn't draw trees like that. I definitely didn't draw horses like that. And then, I don't know what that font is, but it is there. Oh, I should explain the title so that it makes sense. So the book series was called Borrelia, and as you can see, book 1 is Attack of the Shadow King. Before we get into the Shadow King and his motives, Borrelia was a made-up country. In elementary school, basically, me and all my friends had our own made-up countries, and we would make up, like, maps and languages and weird stuff. For me specifically, I remember I made up all these creatures that lived there. I had the geography, and then I decided to write this book based on it. It's very weird because it's high fantasy, but it's also modern. They have modern technology, but everything's really magical and weird. Borrelia, my name's Aurora, so I took the Northern Lights, Aurora Borealis, and then I just was like, oh, Borealis, Borrelia, whatever, slap it on there. I think it explains the geography more in the first chapter, so we'll look at that. But let's hop on over to the cover I actually put in the Word document, which is arguably way worse than this one. So instead of putting the font over the picture like most book covers, we have this terrible image and then a worse font, 2 fonts below it with the title and subtitle. My name's not even on this one. This one I do remember my process. My process was going to Google Images, typing in castle, copying one directly into Microsoft Word, putting a bunch of weird filters on it in Microsoft Word, and then using the drawing tool to trace over it. And voila, we have this mess. Can you even tell that's a castle? I know it's a castle. There's trees in the front yard. Everything else is just, I don't know. So I never actually finished writing this. I wrote, how many chapters did I write? I think I got 6 chapters. I don't even remember if I actually finished the 6th chapter. I'm not even gonna touch the terrible grammar or paragraph structure. I've broken all the grammar and writing rules. It doesn't matter. I didn't know them. I was 12. We're just looking at the plot and the characters. Speaking of which, it's time to meet the protagonist, whose name is Aurora, which is my name. I just put myself in the book, but in this book, I'm a princess. Chapter 1 opens with, my name is Aurora, Princess Aurora, I'm Princess of Auroraville, which leads us into the first bit of geography. There were 3 territories. The entire country was shaped like the letter A, just in the ocean. There's just this giant country shaped like the letter A, with a triangular lake in the middle, and then there's 3 territories, and the capital / leader, the capital territory is Auroraville. So each territory has its own royal family, but the royal family of Auroraville is in charge of everyone. The other two territories, one's just called Kingsland, because I couldn't come up with anything better. The other's called Rhodesia, which is actually a name I stole from myself, because before this, I tried to write a different fantasy book about a country called Rhodesia, and I didn't finish it. I just gave up and then stole the name to use here. We also find out, this feels like trying to hit the word count on an essay, because the second sentence after we meet our brilliant protagonist is, the story begins when we received the news. King Draken, also known as the Shadow King, or King of the Land of Shadows, was spotted in one of the many ships headed for Borrelia. You know, the poison for Cusco, the poison specifically designed to kill Cusco. We're just trying to hit that word count, even though I definitely had no concept of word counts or how long a book was supposed to be. So, after we get, like, this sort of info dump about the protagonist, and where we name the protagonist and the villain, and then get a brief geography overview, we find out that Aurora is at this meeting with all the kings and queens of each of the territories. I also name drop all of the kings and queens, even though they aren't really relevant. I just list off everyone and their children's names, and then they never come up ever again, except for one dude. Oh, here's another fun tidbit. Specifically, it mentions the Shadow King is headed for a place called Zippy's Canal. There's multiple places called Zippy's XYZ, and then the word Zippy will actually come in later, but, everything involving the word Zippy is named after this tiny zebra named Zippy that I've had for over a decade. I've had him since I was like 8, so he is, it's not gonna focus on him. But yeah, tiny little zebra Zippy, who I just named a bunch of stuff after for, I don't know why. So I drop like all the kings and queens names and their children. They're not important. It doesn't matter. I also low-key roast my own siblings in real life. Like, I have siblings in real life, but in the book, Aurora's like, I don't have any siblings, and I'm so glad I'm an only child, because that would suck. I don't know what my deal was. I don't know what that was about. So then we meet a character who actually is important. Oh, before we get into that, we meet a couple characters who actually are important. One is Aurora's, like, best friend, Tabitha. She's the daughter of the stable master of the castle. And then Aurora's father, the king of everything, mentions someone named Leo. Leo is important. He is the agent commander, which means he's in charge of an agency called the Borrelian Elite Force, which is basically the CIA for Borrelia. And Aurora, who is a 12-year-old and only heir to the throne, wants to join them and be a secret agent. And yes, she is in fact 12. It's confirmed later. She is 12, and she wants to join the fantasy CIA. But surprise, surprise, her parents don't want her to. I wonder why that would be. She does mention other prince and princesses in history have been secret agents, which just seems like a terrible idea. At least if you're an heir, maybe don't go be a spy too. I mean, I don't know, I'm not an expert. I'm not saying it can't happen. It just seems weird that so many of them would be secret agents. But, so at this meeting, they find out the Shadow King's on his way. The king says to tell Leo, because I guess the agents are supposed to handle that kind of thing. I don't know if they have an army, it's not mentioned. I think the spy agents are also their army, based on stuff that happens later that I remember. Also, just as an aside, these servants come in, and I'm constantly name-dropping weird food that I don't explain. Like tie-dye pie, marshmallow soda, tiger carrots. Like, I don't actually explain what these things are, what they look like. I just came up with weird names and threw it in. I'm assuming tiger carrots are like regular orange carrots, but with stripes. Marshmallow soda, it's probably soda that tastes like marshmallows. I don't know if that would be good. I think soda coconuts are just, they cut open coconuts and put soda in it, which might be fun, but I don't know why you would have that at a royal meeting discussing how your country is in extreme danger. Hey everyone, this super evil dude is coming to take over our country. Also, there is pie that is tie-dye colored. Don't ask how we did that, because I don't know either. So, the meeting is over, but they have to go to a second meeting at something called North Stadium. I also name-dropped, like, locations and don't explain really what they are, but some kind of stadium where they're gonna meet Leo. Another thing Aurora likes to do is complain about having to go to meetings because her hair has to be done and she has to be all dressed up, which was just me projecting because in real life, as a child, I was always being forced to be dressed up and get my hair done, and I did not care for that at all. So I took all my anger out on a fictional book character based on me. They drive a limo with lime green headlights. Can you have colored headlights? Does that work? I don't know. The limo has lime green headlights. So Leo's last name is King. His name is Leo King, but it seems really confusing to have a character with the last name King when an actual king and queen exist. Anyway, they go into the stadium and Aurora realizes it's like a meeting to add a bunch of agents to the agency. Like Leo's gonna call a bunch of names and induct a bunch of people, and she's like, oh man, I hope I get picked. Which I guess implies that Leo just picks people and then they have to join the agency? Yeah, so she's hoping she'll just, like, be picked to join the agency. Before he starts picking names, he makes an announcement and we find out there is a second villain. Another vague man exists. His name is Olivar. I don't know where I came up with these names, but yeah, this dude named Olivar exists. He lives in Borrelia, and he's trying to take it over from the inside. I think my plan was to have Olivar be, like, the main villain for book 1, and then the Shadow King would turn up and be, like, the main series villain. But I don't know why book 1 would be Attack of the Shadow King, then, if he doesn't come in until later. I don't know. Who am I to understand 12-year-old me's logic? Leo lists off a ton of names. I wrote the names into the story, but literally none of them will ever be mentioned ever again, except for, Tabitha gets picked, and she's also 12, so I guess being 12 doesn't disqualify you from joining the fantasy CIA. Why are they letting 12-year-olds do this? Yeah, Aurora finds out that Leo did want to invite her, but couldn't because her parents wouldn't let him. Like, hey, I want your daughter in the BEF. And they were like, nah. He was like, all right. But we find this out through this thrilling sequence of events where Leo walks by and, like, a piece of paper falls out of his pocket. And, oh no, he had a paper he was reading the names from, but then he accidentally drops it. And Aurora sees that her name is on the list, but it's crossed out. And Leo just wrote, parents won't allow next to her name. We also find out her last name is Star Dragon, which is cool. I'm gonna legally change my last name to Star Dragon. I think that would be fun. And who's gonna stop me? No one. How much does it cost to change your name? Asking for a friend. I think I probably got the idea from Merlin, because, like, Arthur's last name is, like, Pendragon, right? I probably took that and then swapped the pen for Star because I thought that was cooler. Yeah. So Aurora Star Dragon is very upset that her parents won't let her in. Then after Leo finishes saying, oh, these are the people in the BEF, they get refreshments because no spy induction ceremony is complete without refreshments. If you want your spy agents to be a secret, why would you invite a bunch of people who aren't? I mean, I guess it's just royalty and they know about the agency, but it doesn't... I feel like this should be done in secret. I should stop asking so many questions. We all know this is dumb. Aurora gets some refreshments, such as rainbow sparkle soda. That sounds neat. Aurora congratulates Tabitha. Oh, and then they get these things called super spy devices, which they abbreviate as SSDs. They're basically just glorified cell phones, but you can only send messages to other agents. Tabitha gets an SSD, and Aurora's like, oh man, I want a super spy phone device thing. So Aurora goes to talk to Tabitha, who's talking to some dude named Jason. Jason Derulo. Oh, this is where it does confirm everyone's ages. We find out Jason is 15, and Tabitha and Aurora are both 12. Jason is the nephew of the King of Kingsland. I shoved in this random line about how he would only ever be king if he married a princess, and then I just randomly move on. First of all, that's not how royalty works. Wouldn't he be like prince consort if he married a queen? I mean, I know you can do fantasy systems, however, but he wouldn't be king. Probably, I don't know. But more importantly, that line was definitely just shoved in to be like subtle foreshadowing to set up a romance. Because like, oh, Aurora's a princess. If he marries her, he'll be king. But like, who cares? What? But I was setting up a romance, but then I never actually wrote very much romance. I know I didn't get that far, but that's like the only bit in there that makes me know for sure that's what I was planning. Also, it mentions he's moving into the Auroraville castle because he's a spy agent now, so I guess all the spy agents live at the castle. I don't know what parent is letting their 15-year-old child get drafted into the spy agency and then move to another territory. They all go back to the castle and decide to just hang out in Aurora's room. Tabitha and Jason explain that their first mission is to search for Olivar's hideout in the forest, because I guess his hideout is in the forest, and they know that, but they don't know exactly where it is. This also seems like classified information that they're just telling their friend who's not a spy, but who cares. So Aurora finds out about this mission, and she's like, well, I want to be a spy, so I'm just going to go off on my own and look for the hideout. They offer to, like, go with her, but she doesn't want to get them in trouble, so she's like, no, I'm going to go on my own. But, they do decide they'll, like, walk to the forest together and then separate when they get there. Later that night, Aurora sneaks into the kitchen to steal a bunch of food, and we get another weird food drop. It's like, tiger carrots, kiwis. I don't think kiwis are real, right? Like, I made that up. I don't know the names of all the fruits, so you could tell me they're real and I'd believe you, but I think I just took the word kiwi and added letters to the end. But everything else here is a real fruit, like pears and apples. A baby cantaloupe. Is that a real thing? Like, I know cantaloupe is real, but do they call the small ones baby cantaloupes? Is that like a word people use? I don't know. I don't know why I did a mix of real food and not real food. While she's in the kitchen stealing food, she finds a secret passageway that just goes into the closet in her room. But apparently unconcerned with this security flaw, she just packs the most random stuff for her trip. She doesn't know how long she's gonna be gone. She brings a fuzzy blanket to the woods, which just seems unnecessary. She's bringing a phone and a mini computer. And I'm also a little unclear on what exactly a laser pen is. I don't see how a little laser that they have that you can get that just shines a little laser light. I don't see how that would be useful, but it could also be like a laser that burns and cuts through stuff. I don't know what I meant by that. It's also literally never mentioned again, so I guess it wasn't important. That's basically the end of chapter 1. A servant comes and tells Aurora it's time for dinner, and then that's just the end. So we get to move on to chapter 2. Aurora spends a lot of time complaining about how long and boring dinner is. I'm particularly fond of this gem of a line. Everyone was talking, thinking about what we were going to do and stuff like that. That's so many words to say absolutely nothing of importance. What? So she keeps ranting about how boring dinner is until a messenger runs in and announces that Agent Katrina has arrived in her jet. There's this funny bit where the king is like, okay, cool, send her in. And then he turns to a servant and he tells them to bring in Katrina's chair. Like, not just bring in an extra dinner chair she can sit in, but specifically to bring in Katrina's chair. Like, she has her own special chair? Does it look different from everyone else's? You know what? I bet Katrina has one of those gamer chairs, and she has to sit in one of those to eat dinner. Okay, so what has this super duper cool secret agent that everyone loves been up to? Apparently, Katrina had been in some country across the ocean gathering information of some sort. I don't think I did any world building outside of Borrelia itself. Like, I don't even think there's a name for the Shadow King's country. I didn't design any other countries. I didn't map anything except for the letter A with the territories. I didn't plan anything else. I don't know what else exists in this world. Everyone's really excited. Aurora's hoping that maybe she can persuade Katrina to tell her parents to let her join the agency. Leo announces that Katrina's gonna help them with the search for Olivar, and then tells everyone to go to bed. Imagine being in the CIA and your boss is just like, all right, everyone, that was a nice dinner. Go to bed. It's bedtime. Lights out. Do they have to wake up early for the... I don't know. Not even everyone here is a spy agent. Imagine you're the king and your CIA leader is like, hey, time to go to bed, buddy. Go to sleep. I'm overthinking it. Like, I'm definitely overthinking this, but who cares? Aurora wakes herself up in the middle of the night to go meet Tabitha and Jason. So Aurora stops by the stable to get her horse. Instead of using any sort of vehicles that exist, everyone rides everywhere on horses. Yeah, fun fact about this book, there's a completely unnecessary amount of horse information. Yeah, I was basically a horse girl in first grade, and then I realized I couldn't compete with all the other horse girls who were rich enough to actually afford horses, so I decided to become a shark girl instead. There's a shark poster on my wall that I've also had since second grade. I'm not going to move the camera right now, but I will definitely remember to insert a clip of my poster right here. Don't forget to film a clip, genius, and put it in the video. Okay, yeah, there it is. There's the bad boy shark poster. They're sharks. I saw a picture of a great white shark the other day and really wanted to hug it. So I would definitely die if I was dropped in the ocean, because I'd try to pet the sharks. But, where was I going with this? Oh, right, horse information. What's weird is I was like in 5th or 6th grade. Oh, I was in 6th grade, I think, when I wrote this. I guess I just had enough lingering horse obsession to manifest itself as including way too many details about every single character's horse. Every horse gets a detailed appearance, description, and names. They get more details than the actual people in the book. Like, I don't think I described anyone's appearance, but every horse gets all, like, so much description. More description than you need. Yeah, so Aurora has a dappled golden palomino horse with a soft white mane. I definitely used to know what those words meant, but I had to forget most of my horse knowledge to make room for the entire script of Megamind 2010, so I no longer know what this horse looks like. Hang on, let me just, Yes, it looks like that. Very cool. The horses all also have names. Aurora's horse is named Amberlin. Another fun fact is that I spent literal hours on a horse naming website. In fact, I probably put more time into naming the horses than any other person in the book. Aurora also grabs a dagger, a sword, a bow, and a quiver of arrows, and like, she's 12? Does she even know how to use these? What? Why do they have daggers and swords when they have, like, their society is so advanced, they have a limo with lime green headlights, and then they're out here using bows and arrows. Do you people not have, like, guns? Do they not exist? Did I write a fantasy world where technology evolved in every aspect, but they just never discovered gunpowder? I don't know. I don't think guns are ever mentioned even once, so who knows? Tabitha and Jason show up and we get introduced to their horses. For those who are interested, Tabitha has a female black and white pinto named Amir, and Jason has a male black Mustang named Abbas. Okay. My camera randomly stopped recording, which is cool. I wasn't in the middle of talking or anything. Oh well, here we are. So as I was saying, did I explain that my Microsoft Word crashed? Because it's, didn't like the book, I guess, but my Microsoft Word glitched out and I had to restart it. Yeah, look at this. Like, what? Why? How does this happen? How does this happen? I don't care. So Aurora and the others go to the forest and they separate. Around noon the next day, Aurora stops to drink water and have lunch. There's this hilarious mental image I get because apparently to give her horse water, she just pours water into a hole in the ground and lets the horse drink the groundwater. How do you give horses water if you're, like, on a journey? Do they just drink from lakes and rivers? Can horses drink from water bottles or use straws? Or do you just have to have them drink, like, water on the ground? Horse experts, please comment below. As she continues, she mentions that she keeps almost running into other agents who are also searching for Olivar, and she's like barely avoids being seen. But if these professional agents are being noticed by a 12-year-old but they don't notice her, they probably suck at their jobs. Maybe she is a better spy agent than all the adults. Eventually the sun goes down and Aurora goes to sleep, and then it's the next morning. So she keeps searching and she hears voices, so she stops to hide. And as she does, this big black Mustang comes into view. I want to know how she knows, like, what all these horse breeds are just by looking at them. Like, did part of her royal training just include memorizing every possible breed of horse? I feel like horses are weirdly important to this society. Yeah, this black Mustang comes into view. There's a very important looking person riding the horse. From here on out, he's just referred to as a commander. So cool. 50 white horses follow him out. They all have soldiers riding them. So presumably they've been riding around for a while, but completely unprompted, just as they conveniently pass Aurora's hiding spot, the commander turns to his soldiers and asks them if anyone has anything to report. One soldier speaks up and says that they've noticed more agents in the forest, including Agent Katrina. This starts a really weird fight. The commander is really insistent that Katrina's in another country. There's no way she could have just come back. So he's like, the soldier couldn't have seen her, and accuses him of trying to discourage Olivar. So after some brief arguing, they move on. Or they go to move on, but they are stopped by someone firing an arrow at them. A bunch more arrows come out of the trees, and then we're introduced to another character. Oh, wait, no, this is a horse. We're introduced to another horse. It's Katrina's horse, Leandro, who is a beautiful black male Frisian. Frisian? Am I saying that right? I don't know what kind of horse that is. Katrina has a lasso for some reason. So she lassos the commander and pulls him off the horse. A dozen other agents show up and capture some of the soldiers, but the rest run away. Aurora has this moment where she decides to do a dramatic inner monologue about how, sure, yeah, she's rich and famous and everyone already loves her because she's a princess, but she doesn't want people to love her because she's the princess. She wants them to love her for, let me check my notes here, doing something that proved her worthy of awesomeness. Which basically means she's gonna follow the escaping soldiers to Olivar's hideout, because I guess none of the other more experienced agents thought of that. She follows them until sunset, they stop for the night, she sleeps in a tree without any issues. You know, spy stuff. She wakes up the next morning just as they're leaving and continues to follow them, and finally, we reach Olivar's hideout. So basically there's the forest, and then there's this big clearing, kind of. I don't know how to explain this. The forest stops, and then these hills go downhill, and at the bottom of the hill is the hideout. The building was a majestic white house-like thing, with a walkway and a patio over a large pond. I could see the pond emptied out a river, while another river poured into it. In the middle of the pond was a large fountain blasting colorful water into the pond. The water appeared colorful, I could see, because there were small lights in the fountain. So yeah, this evil dude is chilling in the forest in this cool forest house with a patio and a light-up water fountain. Say what you will about these villains, who we really don't know what bad things they've actually done, but they do have taste. This is how you do a villainous hideout. Colorful fountain, dope patio, waterfront property. I don't know anything about Olivar's personality or motives or backstory, but he does have a cool hideout. So I'll give him points for that. I think the funniest thing about this hideout is I actually remember it's from a dream I had. I don't know, I had this happen a lot, especially as a kid, where I would have a dream, and then I wake up and I'd be like, wow, that was such a cool dream, I should write it as a book. And then as more time passed, I would think back on the dream and realize it didn't make any sense. But I would be so determined, I would just cram what I could remember into the book anyway. Yeah, so there's some random out of place scenes that were just me trying to recapture this epic dream I had one time. So while the guards go into the hideout, Aurora uses her phone to get GPS coordinates of the location, and she saves it, and then she leaves to return to the castle, and that's just the end of this chapter. You can follow me on Twitter. If you want to see what I'm writing right now, you can check it out on my Wattpad. That's it. That's all the words I have to say for this video. So I'll see you next time. I hope. And then I explained the geography, so I should probably be on this document.